Thank you for watching the video. This is YouTube Medical University. The liver is a very important organ for living as it helps digest food and detoxify the body. In fact, some of my patients who come to my clinic have damaged their livers, which caused their skin to turn yellow and led to life-threatening complications. They often say they wish they had been more careful earlier. Actually, it's said that 1 in 3 Japanese people has fatty liver. Fatty liver is a condition where fat accumulates in the liver, making it look like foie gras. If you leave this untreated, inflammation will occur and your liver will gradually become harder and harder. Just like when your skin gets injured and forms a scab, once your liver becomes hard, it can't return to its original state. If you develop liver cirrhosis, you may lose consciousness, your blood may stop being produced, leading to anemia and shortness of breath, and the imbalance in blood flow can cause massive vomiting of blood, which can be life-threatening. And this liver cirrhosis also increases the risk of liver cell cancer. Hospitals receive medical fees by detecting diseases early and providing treatment. Even if hospitals provide knowledge to prevent illness and methods for early detection, it doesn't benefit them financially. However, what's important is to avoid getting sick. It's important to reduce risks or avoid getting sick in the first place at the stage before illness, known as the pre-disease stage. At YouTube Medical University, we clearly and responsibly share ways to prevent and detect diseases early from a doctor's perspective, so I'd be happy if you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. However, unfortunately, when it comes to the liver, in the early stages, there are no symptoms, making it difficult to detect. It would be great if we could detect the symptoms of liver problems early, but the liver is called the silent organ. By the time symptoms appear, the disease has often already progressed and it's usually too late to reverse it. And when the liver starts to deteriorate, the symptoms are very hard to notice. You might never imagine that symptoms in your hands or mouth could actually be signs of liver problems. Don't overlook them. In the second half of the video, I'll discuss warning signs that your liver is worsening. I'll introduce 7 warning signs. So here's today's agenda. First, I'll introduce 6 ways to improve fatty liver. Then, in the second part, I'll introduce 7 warning signs from your liver. This will be a long video, but I'd be happy if you could listen to it several times, maybe take some notes and watch until the end. Alright, let's get started. Here is the first of the 6 ways to improve fatty liver. It's coffee. Isn't that surprising to everyone? Actually, coffee can help suppress fatty liver and prevent cirrhosis. Such research results are being reported one after another. In fact, the preventive effects of coffee are also mentioned on the website of the Japan Society of Gastroenterology. According to a report from the National Cancer Center of Japan, it has actually been reported that coffee has a preventive effect against liver cancer. In a study involving 90,000 Japanese people aged 40 to 69 coffee, when comparing people who drink a lot of coffee with those who don't, those who drank more coffee had fewer cases of liver cancer. People who drank coffee every day had half the risk of liver cancer compared to those who hardly drank any. Furthermore, there are reports that people who drink 5 or more cups of coffee a day have their risk of liver cancer reduced to 1/4. Incidentally, this effect was not seen with green tea, which also contains caffeine, so it is believed that components in coffee other than caffeine have an effect on the liver. It is thought that these components may have a positive effect. I think many people are surprised by the effects of coffee. So coffee, however, thinking that you should drink 5 or 6 cups a day is a bit risky. The reason is that drinking too much coffee can lead to excessive caffeine intake. If you consume too much caffeine in a day, it can increase your risk of high blood pressure. This has also been reported in a study by Toronto University. To prevent negative effects on your health, there is a recommended daily limit for caffeine intake, which is about 300 to 400 mg per day. A can of black canned coffee contains about 100 to 150 mg of caffeine, so keep in mind that about 3 cups a day is the recommended amount. By the way, people with heart conditions, mental health issues, or those who are pregnant should be especially careful with caffeine. Regarding the risks of caffeine, I've summarized the video here, so if you're interested, please check it out from the description below. Here is the second of the 6 ways to improve fatty liver. It's to consume healthy fats. Many people think that since fatty liver is caused by fat accumulating in the liver, it's better not to consume any fats. However, consuming certain types of fats can actually help prevent lifestyle-related diseases and illnesses caused by clogged blood vessels. There are many reports that suggest it may help prevent heart attacks and strokes. The healthy oils for your body are these omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are found in fish oil, olive oil, perilla oil, and flaxseed oil. On the other hand, the fats found in red meat and salad oil may actually worsen fatty liver, so you need to be careful. Even just changing the type of oil you use regularly can have a very positive effect on fatty liver. The National Cancer Center conducted, in a study involving 90,000 men and women, the group that consumed omega-3 fatty acids. There are even reports that they reduced the risk of developing cancer itself, so please make an effort to actively consume oils that are good for your body. As for the dietary method that I also practice, I recommend increasing your intake of blue-backed fish instead of meat. Consuming too much red meat, such as beef, pork, ham, or sausages, actually increases the risk of colon cancer. So, try replacing your usual protein sources from red meat with blue-backed fish that contain omega-3 fatty acids. Just by increasing your weekly intake of blue-backed fish by 100 grams, you can reduce your future risk of heart blockages and strokes. The risk decreased. There are reports that the more you consume, the lower the risk becomes. And nuts, especially the oil found in walnuts, are also said to be healthy oils. In fact, I usually eat them when I get a little hungry. By switching from things like chocolate to nuts, I'm actively trying to consume healthy oils. The third of the 6 ways to improve fatty liver is to cut back on alcohol. Actually, our liver works to metabolize alcohol. If you drink too much alcohol every single day, your liver has to work non-stop and it will get exhausted. And the alcohol that your liver can't process ends up being stored as fat in the liver, resulting in fatty liver disease. So, how much do you actually have to drink before your liver gets damaged? Here are the guidelines. For example, drinking 500 ml of sake a day, that's quite a lot. If you keep drinking like that and continue such a lifestyle for 5 years, your risk of developing fatty liver increases significantly. And then, if you drink 900 ml of sake, again, that's quite a lot. If you keep that up for 10 years, many people end up with cirrhosis, which is when the liver becomes hard and can't return to normal after fatty liver. In other words, please remember that alcohol is a major enemy for your liver. But you might have heard that alcohol is called the best of all medicines and that drinking a moderate amount is good for your health. You might be wondering if that's really true. That's partly true, but it's important to make a comprehensive judgment. It's true that the risk of diseases like myocardial infarction, where the blood vessels in the heart get blocked, is lower in people who drink a little alcohol. However, if you exceed a certain amount of alcohol, the risk starts to increase. On the other hand, for things like breast cancer and esophageal cancer, there's no evidence that drinking a small amount of alcohol lowers the risk. In fact, there are reports that even a small amount of drinking gradually increases the risk. So, if you actually drink alcohol, is there a guideline for how much is considered, okay? The Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare says that an appropriate daily alcohol intake is up to 20 grams per day. 20 grams of alcohol is about 1 medium bottle of beer or about 1 serving of sake. For a 7% can Chuhai, that's about 1 350 milliliter can. The Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare isn't saying that alcohol is absolutely forbidden either. If you can limit your alcohol to a small amount, it's fine to drink as long as you follow the guideline I mentioned. However, excessive drinking raises the risk of liver and esophageal cancer and other problems, so please drink in moderation. And with this opportunity, please consider reducing your alcohol intake or having alcohol-free days. The 4th method for improving fatty liver is to lose weight. Fatty liver is a condition where fat accumulates in the liver. Fortunately, by losing weight, you can improve this fatty liver condition. Many of my patients who come to my clinic have successfully incorporated exercise and made dietary adjustments to lose weight and overcome fatty liver. As a guideline, it is said that if you can lose 5% of your body weight, fatty liver will improve. For someone who weighs 50 kilograms, that would be 2.5 kilograms. And for someone who weighs 60 kilograms, that would be 3 kilograms. If you work hard with your diet and exercise, this amount is achievable. Isn't that a realistic goal? If you think, if losing weight were that easy, I wouldn't be watching this and struggling. Try not to force yourself into a new exercise routine. Why not try to incorporate exercise into your daily life? For example, if you're watching this YouTube video while lying down, try standing up instead. Or make a rule for yourself to use the stairs instead of the elevator when you're at work or going shopping. While you're microwaving your food, you could challenge yourself to do squats during that time. By making small changes like these in your daily routine, let's gradually become healthier together. And actually, overdoing exercise can put extra strain on your joints, and there is even data showing that it can actually harm your health. Even just walking 2,000 steps a day, which takes only about 20 minutes, has been shown to have health benefits. If you feel like you can put in a little effort to exercise, please check out my previous videos about exercise. I've uploaded them, so please check them out from the description box at the end. Here is the 5th way to improve fatty liver. It's to get regular blood tests. When your liver is weakened, there are rarely any early symptoms. In fact, by getting blood tests, you can detect liver disorders and fatty liver at an early stage. Values like aspartate aminotransferase, alanine aminotransferase, and gamma-guanosine triphosphate are helpful indicators. And actually, the most common causes of cirrhosis, which can result from worsening fatty liver, are hepatitis B and hepatitis C. Did you know? Hepatitis B and hepatitis C, which used to be widespread in the past, have been controlled through mass vaccination programs. Now, effective treatments have been found, and especially for hepatitis C, if it is detected, many people can receive treatment and see improvement. And hepatitis B can still be contracted in adulthood through needle stick injuries or as a sexually transmitted infection, which happens quite often. I think it's also important to have regular blood tests so you don't miss hepatitis B or C, which have a high risk of cirrhosis. Please consult your primary doctor or a nearby physician. 6 ways to improve fatty liver, and the 6th one is this: undergo imaging tests. This is similar to blood tests. Actually, fatty liver can be easily detected with an ultrasound. Because fat accumulates in the liver appears brighter than a normal liver. The liver appears bright and shiny with fat on an ultrasound, but sometimes the ultrasound beam can't reach some areas. Depending on the skill of the person performing the examination, there is a possibility that advanced conditions like cirrhosis or even liver cancer could be missed for those at high risk. For example, people who have hepatitis B or hepatitis C should regularly have blood tests to measure tumor markers. It is recommended to have liver ultrasounds or MRIs. When your liver starts to deteriorate, there are indeed some unexpected signs which I'll talk about later, but sometimes these signs can be missed or there may be no symptoms at all. In such cases, tests can be helpful. With an ultrasound exam, there is no radiation exposure and no pain. So, when you go for a health checkup, I recommend getting it as an option along with your other tests. Please consider having regular liver checkups like that. Now, let's review the first lesson. The first one is coffee. I explained that it can lower the risk of fatty liver, liver cirrhosis, and liver cancer. The second one is oil. Actually, there are oils that are good for the liver and lifestyle diseases, and those are omega-3 fatty acids found in fish, nuts, olive oil, and flaxseed oil. I said these are in foods like fish, nuts, olive oil, and flaxseed oil. The third point is alcohol. While drinking a small amount might be slightly good for the heart, I explained that drinking too much increases the risk of liver cancer, breast cancer, and esophageal cancer, so you need to be careful not to overdrink. The fourth point is losing weight. If you have fatty liver, losing weight can help improve your condition. Please try to incorporate exercise and make adjustments to your diet. Try your best to lose even just 5% of your body weight. The 5th and 6th points were blood tests and imaging tests. By regularly undergoing tests such as aspartate aminotransferase, alanine aminotransferase, gamma-guanosine triphosphate, as well as ultrasound and magnetic resonance imaging, you can detect liver conditions early, even though there are often no initial symptoms. You can detect dangerous signs from the liver. Regular health checkups are indeed important. Now, let's get started. Here are 7 dangerous signs that appear when your liver is in bad condition. The first one is redness of the hands. Seeing is believing. Please take a look at this image. Redness in the palms like this could be an save our soul sign that your liver is in bad condition. There was a time when a man in his 70s came to my clinic. He said, "Doctor, since I started working in the fields recently, my hands have become red. Could you take a look?" and showed me his hands. The moment I saw them, it crossed my mind that the liver might be the cause. That prompted me to run some tests. That person was diagnosed with cirrhosis caused by the progression of fatty liver. So why do your hands turn red when your liver is not functioning well? This is related to a hormone called estrogen. Not only women but men also have a small amount of the female hormone estrogen. However, when the liver is not functioning properly, it can't process estrogen, causing the concentration of estrogen in the blood to increase, which makes your hands turn red. In addition to your hands turning red, there is also a sign called spider angioma, where the blood vessels in the skin expand and look like a spider or cloud from a distance. Why do your hands or skin turn red when estrogen increases? It's because estrogen causes the capillaries to expand. There are capillaries running just under the skin of your hands and other areas, and when these expand due to estrogen, they appear red. What do you think? If you focus on the why, I think learning becomes more enjoyable and it's harder to forget. Dangerous signs that appear when your liver is in bad condition. Here are 7, and the second one is itching of the skin. When your liver gets worse, your skin becomes itchy. This also seems unrelated at first glance, doesn't it? The reason is that when our blood is broken down and destroyed, something called bilirubin is produced. This bilirubin is broken down in the liver and becomes bile, which then flows from the liver into the intestines. It joins from the liver into the duodenum, which is just past the stomach, and is released into the intestines. However, if the liver becomes damaged, it can't release the bilirubin into the intestines. It starts to circulate in the bloodstream. As bilirubin spreads throughout the body via the blood, it appears as itching of the skin. And another factor is that the liver actually has a detoxifying function. The food we eat through our mouths and the substances created by each cell's metabolism. The liver plays a role in detoxifying waste products. However, if the function of the liver declines, it can no longer detoxify these waste products. So toxins that cause itching can accumulate in the body. The skin becomes itchy. But doctor, there are many diseases that cause itchy skin, like allergies, eczema, and hives. It doesn't necessarily mean the liver is bad, right? I think that's certainly true. However, the key point is whether there are rashes or redness on the itchy areas. Even though there aren't any, it's still persistently itchy. In such cases, please consider that the liver is likely to be the cause. Other than that, even if there are no bumps on the skin, itching can also occur when the kidneys are not functioning well. So if you're concerned about other symptoms that appear when kidney function is poor, I'll put a link to the video in the description, so please check it out from there. Dangerous signs that appear when the liver is not functioning well. Here are 7, and the third one is this. The skin turns yellow. Do you know why your stool is brown or yellowish? To put it simply, this color comes from bile produced by the liver being released into the intestines. So, when the liver is damaged and the bile produced by the liver, if the bile doesn't get released into the intestines, these substances circulate in the blood and deposit in the skin, causing the skin to turn yellow. Do you know what this is called? This is called jaundice. I think many of you have heard of it before. My skin is also on the yellowish side, but it can become even more yellow, and an easier way to tell is by looking at the eyes. When the whites of your eyes look more yellow than usual, there's a high chance it could be jaundice, so please consider seeing a doctor. Of course, jaundice isn't caused only by liver problems. If the flow of bile becomes poor and it gets blocked around the pancreas, that can also cause jaundice. Likewise, if a stone gets stuck in the bile duct or if cancer develops and blocks the flow, jaundice can occur as well. So jaundice can often be a sign of dangerous diseases like pancreatic cancer or bile duct cancer. If you have even the slightest suspicion, I strongly recommend consulting a doctor. Here is the 4th dangerous sign that appears when your liver is not functioning well. It's when your breath starts to smell bad. Have you ever heard of an ammonia smell? Sometimes in public restrooms that aren't cleaned very often, you get that sharp stinging smell in your nose. Have you ever smelled a sour odor like that? That's the smell of ammonia. Actually, that's a smell that comes from urine, but when we normally urinate, it doesn't smell that strong, right? When urine is left as it is and bacteria break it down, ammonia is produced, which causes the strong smell. In other words, in our bodies, ammonia is usually broken down. The organ responsible for that is the liver. Ammonia is produced when we consume protein by mouth or when our muscles are broken down. The liver detoxifies this ammonia and turns it into urea, which is then excreted in urine. That's why our urine doesn't smell that bad and our bodies don't smell either. If the liver's function declines, it can't break down ammonia, so the ammonia circulates in the blood and can cause your breath to smell like ammonia. Not everyone with liver problems will have bad breath, so please keep that in mind. However, if you've recently noticed bad breath or your family has told you that your breath smells, that could be a save our soul sign from your liver. Here are 7 dangerous symptoms that appear when your liver is in bad condition, and the 5th one is this. Feeling irritable or sleepy. Lately you might feel irritated for no reason, or you might feel sleepy and spaced out. Those symptoms might actually be save our soul signals from your liver. This symptom has the same cause as the bad breath I mentioned in the 4th point. When ammonia circulates throughout your body and reaches your brain, it can cause consciousness disorders, making you feel spaced out or sleepy. If it gets even more severe, you can fall into a coma, meaning you fall asleep and can't wake up. That can happen. As for physical symptoms, a characteristic one is called flapping tremor. Even if you tell someone to keep their hands still, their hands will twitch and move like they're flapping. Those kinds of symptoms can appear. It's also said that in the very early stages, personality changes can occur. Recently, it's become easier to get irritated. I often find myself spacing out. I've become indifferent to everything and my personality has become more childish. There are people who come in saying things like that. Lately, I've been tired and stressed out. Before you just leave it at that, if any of this sounds familiar, please consider consulting a doctor. Here are the dangerous signs that appear when your liver is in bad condition. Number 6 out of 7 is this. It's gaining weight. Does having a bad liver really make you gain weight? Why does your weight increase? It's because your body starts retaining water and fluids. I also watched other YouTube channels, but some of them had incorrect information. When water accumulates in the body due to liver problems, it's more characteristic for fluid to build up in the abdomen, called ascites, rather than swelling in the legs. So if you've noticed that only your stomach has been getting bloated lately, that symptom could be caused by your liver, ascites. There's a possibility that fluid is accumulating. If you've been feeling like only your stomach is getting bloated lately, even though you haven't been overeating or drinking excessively, that could be an save our soul signal from your liver. Swelling in the body can occur due to kidney problems or malnutrition. At those times, swelling usually starts from the feet. Do you know why? It's because we're pulled down by gravity, right? So it's really hard for the body to bring blood from the lowest part back up. So when fluid builds up in the body, it often starts accumulating in the feet. But the liver is different. Why is it that in the case of the liver, fluid tends to accumulate in the abdomen, called ascites? If you think about how blood flows, you'll understand right away. Where does the blood that gathers in the liver come from? Actually, the nutrients we take in through our mouths are absorbed in the small intestine and other places, and the blood that absorbs these nutrients in the small and large intestines, the organ where nutrients and fluids gather first, is the liver. To put it simply, there's a blood vessel called the portal vein, and through that, all kinds of nutrients first gather in the liver. However, when the liver becomes unhealthy, it gets hard and stiff, right? When that happens, the blood flow in the liver also gets worse, so the blood starts to stagnate and get congested. When the blood gets congested, some of it starts to seep out from the liver. Due to congestion, organs in front of the liver, such as the small and large intestines, the blood gets congested. The clear liquid component in the blood called plasma starts to seep out. So because fluid seeps out from the liver and intestines, your abdomen becomes swollen and tight. What do you think? I believe that focusing on the why makes things more interesting and easier to remember. Of course, when the liver's function declines, it can no longer produce nutrients. Your legs may swell and your arms may also become swollen. However, what's characteristic of the liver is that fluid tends to accumulate in the abdomen, so please keep that in mind. Dangerous signs of poor liver health include a general feeling of fatigue. You may feel unusually tired and get exhausted easily, among other symptoms. Could be save our soul signals from your liver. The liver detoxifies things like the alcohol we drink and the medications we take. Not just that, but also the food we eat through our mouths. It also processes the byproducts created when each and every cell in our body metabolizes. I explained that it also has the function of detoxifying waste products. So if your liver becomes unhealthy, those kinds of waste products start to accumulate throughout your body, and that's said to cause general fatigue, or what we call sluggishness. Of course, sluggishness can also be caused by things other than the liver, like malignant tumors. Brushing it off as just being tired and ignoring it could be risky. Another organ that's just as important, as I mentioned earlier, is the kidney. You all know the phrase kanjin, liver and kidney, right? Yes, the liver and the kidney. As the name suggests, they're both very important organs. Actually, even if your kidneys get worse, since waste products can't be expelled in the urine, your body can start to feel sluggish. Some of the symptoms when your kidneys aren't functioning well are, other symptoms include anemia or less urine. I've discussed this before, so check the description box if interested. Now, let's review the second period. As for the dangerous signs that appear when your kidneys are not functioning well, the first one I explained was redness of the hands. I explained that when the body can't metabolize estrogen, the capillaries expand and the hands become red. The second sign is itching of the skin. Bilirubin, which is produced when red blood cells are broken down, is usually excreted through the intestines. But when the liver is not functioning well, this process can't happen, so bilirubin circulates throughout the body, causing itching of the skin. And the third sign is jaundice. I explained that the skin turns yellow. The key point is to check if the whites of the eyes have turned yellow. The fourth sign is bad breath. The liver normally detoxifies ammonia, but when it can't do that, an ammonia smell comes from the mouth. I also explained that. And the fifth sign is irritability or drowsiness, which I also discussed. When ammonia circulates in the blood and reaches the brain, it can make you irritable, spaced out, or sleepy. And there's also something called asterixis, where your hands tremble. In the worst case, it can lead to a coma where you can't wake up. I explained that as well. And the sixth sign is gaining weight, especially something called ascites, which is when fluid accumulates in the abdomen. The food we eat is absorbed in the small and large intestines, circulates through the blood and returns to the liver. If the liver becomes stiff, blood flow gets congested and fluid seeps out from the liver, small intestine and large intestine. Fluid builds up in the abdomen, causing swelling and bloating. I mentioned that too. The seventh sign is general body fatigue. The liver detoxifies and eliminates all kinds of waste products from the body, so when it can't do that, you start to feel fatigued. And there's another important organ, the kidneys, right? The kidneys also remove waste through urine, so when they can't do that, you start to feel fatigued. How was that? In today's information society, all kinds of information are overflowing on the internet. There is a lot you can learn, but some of the information is incorrect. Be careful not to be misled by such information. Why is this good for your body? What kind of data supports it? If you remember the reasons along with the information, I think it will be harder to be misled by incorrect information. At YouTube Medical University, our theme is to make health enjoyable and easy to understand, and we share information responsibly. If you like, subscribing to our channel would encourage us. Whether you give a thumbs up or down, I'd appreciate you rating this video. Also, please share what you're doing in the comments. Please share your lifestyle habits and what your doctor told you at the hospital. Well then, I'll see you in the next video.